the revolution starting inside. An instrumental part of Agora worldwide. Agora worldwide. Agora worldwide. Counter economics. Agorist strip. Black market click. Move a quick flip. Can't regulate this. Agorist strip. Black market click. Move a quick flip. Can't regulate this. Agorist.
Agorist.
Agorist. Nexus. Agorist.
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 It's the Agorist Next podcast. I'm Brandon. I've got my great co-host Dag. How you doing, Dag?
What's up, man? Doing pretty good.
Pretty good, man.
Just dealing with summertime, you know.
Yeah, trying to stay cool. For sure.
Yeah, I like recording here in the middle of the day like this, like we're doing today, because it gives me an excuse to not be outside.
Nice. Yeah. We've got a great guest on, but before we get into it, shout out to our sponsor, Presearch. Hit the affiliate link if you can to sign up for Presearch. That way they know that we're worth sponsoring. It's a great decentralized search engine where you earn crypto.
No spying, no censorship, dark mode.
Yeah.
All that shit.
Down with Google, right? So what's the
not like down with Google, but like down with Google.
Yeah. Let's support anarchists who are trying to make the world a better place. So shout out to Presearch. And so with that said, I've got the Jack V Lloyd on today. You guys probably all know him. If you don't, you definitely know Foe. And they do all kinds of stuff, comic books, and we're about to get into that right now. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good, man. Probably not as good as you. That's kind of hard to do. So
just because I got a little sunshine, that's all.
Got a little tan going on, you know?
Yeah. Plus, I had a good weekend the other weekend being at Yale Revolution. It was a lot of fun getting to see some cool people. So,
yeah, that's hella cool. You guys make it out to a lot of stuff. I know I've seen you guys at a couple events locally and everything. So it's it's a lot of fun getting out and actually doing in-person events. Actually meeting other anarchists and just spending time with people who don't want you locked in a cage is just such a great feeling. And it's unfortunate that it's so unique these days because it's like the only chance that you get to do that is when you actually go to an event that's for that,
Right. It's nice to not have to worry about like someone getting bored with what you're saying because you're like, oh yeah, let's talk about the Fed, let's talk about crypto, let's talk about what's happening with the shutdowns and stuff and how messed up that is. It's nice to actually have conversations with people who are in agreement with you that the government's bad.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you maybe tell us real quick what all you dip your fingers into, because I'm sure we're gonna miss it if we try.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, so I guess I'll touch on as much as I can within reason. So one of the things I'm known for is doing the Voluntaryist Comic book series, which is a superhero genre comic book that really just kind of takes the concept of the state and turns on its head as the evil norm, as opposed to what most comic books have, which is the government is either outright good or just there's some bad apples and they just need to fix it. So while my comic series might at first sound like it's preachy because of the name and the theme, it's actually just meant to be a real regular story, but within it there's just a different way of how the characters think about the world and how they develop their philosophy and so forth. So I just finished my 11th campaign not too long ago, and we just finished actually the first half of the inks. So everything's going along swimmingly with that, and it's been a really fun time, actually. The comic issues just keep getting better and better each time, and I think that people are, from what I've seen, really excited about the continuation of the series. So this is the actually second to last issue in this current arc called the Origins arc, which brings about the character, the main protagonist, Jack Lloyd, and the rest of the other main characters who are kind of setting the backdrop to what's happening with the government trying to enslave humanity and things like that. So that's one project there. And then I do a bunch of other stuff for producing for different channels, from the Pholosopher to Honest Teacher, Red Flag Reality, Libertarian Guys to Asian Wives, a bunch of other different pages and other things like that. I produce videos and music, and actually one of I would say my favorite recent productions was working on Mask Order, which is I think just hit over 90,000 views on YouTube. It's very popular because obviously people hate the lockdowns and the shutdowns and the mask orders, and that was a lot of fun to make that video. It still holds up. And doing some songs as well myself, either backgrounding or being a lead. Actually, I'm going to be in studio tomorrow recording a new song, which is going to be, I think, a big hit, or at least I hope. And outside of those things, if I'm not doing anything in the creative or digital space, you might, as you said, see me at different events, either enjoying them or doing mentorship or working behind the scenes with different projects. So I kind of do all different types of different things, and just really like promoting liberty and non-aggression and voluntarism and everything I do. So
yeah, man. Well, that's excellent. We definitely appreciate the work that you do. I guess.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, absolutely.
For your service. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you for saying. I want to. There's a lot of stuff that you said that I want to get into, but one thing that I actually wasn't familiar with. You said red flag reality. Is that what it sounds like? Red flag, like red flag gun laws. What? Tell me a little bit about that, because I'm not familiar.
Sure. So the Red Flag Reality was a project that Fun and I created, which was kind of focusing on helping wake people up to what's happening with red flag laws, just because, basically undermines any sense of due process that you'd have in the United States. Basically, just a court order without even you being there, an ex-party hearing, is made, and all of a sudden they're saying, well, he's a threat in some, abstract way, and they all of a sudden come and take your guns. And it's like, wait, you haven't even been charged with the crime. You haven't, been shown that you actually are doing something harmful to somebody. So we thought that was really scary and dangerous, and wanted to kind of push back against that. So we created a campaign related to that in 2020. And in our first campaign with that, we fundraised like $20K to do a bunch of different videos talking about red flag laws. And also we ended up doing some other videos about the ATF. One of which I think did pretty well. It's called 3 Reasons to Abolish the ATF, which I think on Facebook alone had 190,000 views. And we produced some more videos past that, like an update to 3 common gun control myths debunked, and we made 5 common gun control myths debunked. And we still are keeping that branding and concept alive. We intend to do more videos in that genre of talking about gun control and things of that nature, and red flag laws, of course. But we had to take a step back with some of it because we couldn't do as much as we wanted to, thanks to all the government tyranny and shutdowns and lockdowns and things like that. But obviously, we're not finished with it. We're still gearing up to do some things in 2022 for hopefully making a new skit in that genre of creative content that we're doing.
Nice. I tend to only care so much about, laws and shit, being, an agorist and whatnot, right? But really, when it does come to 2A and gun laws and stuff, it's when I look at, what happens in legislation and everything, I really feel lately, if it wasn't for red flag laws, I wouldn't be that worried about a lot of new gun control encroachment. But the thing that really gets me about red flag laws is whenever you talk to somebody about gun control and gun confiscation, most people are they're not going to go door to door and take everybody's guns. It's going to be violence. And it's yeah, you're right if they did it all at once. But with something like red flag, they can do it one at a time. And for any minor reason, and I think that's how it happens. It's not an all at once door to door thing. It's a small, slow creep.
Well, and to me, what's very scary about that is how it can be weaponized by anyone who is a close contact. And in some states, obviously it's a state level thing, so it depends on the state's legislative scheme. But you had some states where they're saying, well, if an X says that you're a threat, all of a sudden we're going to come after you. Or if a teacher says, ooh, this kid was talking about guns, we're going to go after the parents and things. When you get to that level where it's very easy and flimsy for someone who themselves is an anti-gun advocate or activist to be able to say, oh yeah, I have some proximity to this person because I'm a coworker or I'm a teacher, or I'm a family member, even though you might never see that family member ever, but they hate you for some reason, some cousin or something, and all of a sudden they can make up a story and have the police come kick down your door, shoot your dog maybe even, and try to take your guns. That's, to us, I mean, we're like, okay, that's scary. That's legit scary. This isn't something where it's oh, okay, at least, there's a court hearing and you can kind of defend yourself to some extent, before there's actually a decision made. I mean, they're having these meetings without the accused. it's X party. So you know what I mean? You don't even have a chance to defend yourself before the taking. That's crazy. You know what I mean? That's absolutely insane. So that's why we were so passionate about that, and we were really concerned. And it still is, of course, a real concern. It's still, you know, happening. But fortunately, through our work and other people's work, there has been some pushback in some places, and you know, there is a unraveling of it in some ways, but it's still a present threat and needs to be removed in several key states for sure.
And
and that's why I was a big supporter of red flag reality, because it could just be hearsay, and somebody could go in there and you know, basically, you know, take your life away, and it's very concerning. And I probably cut you off, Dag. What were you gonna say?
No, I cut you off this time, man. We're switching it up.
I cut you off.
Yeah. I heard a statistic, and it was something like 80-something% of the red flag, like the initiation was actually by like government people. And this might have just been in some states, and I could be wrong about that statistic, but it was something staggeringly high. Because like the idea is like, hey man, I got this family member and whatever, eats little nuts, and hey, maybe, you know, we need to do something. But in reality, it's like usually like teachers or something, you know, or some sort of government entity or agent initiating these red flag things, which makes it, of course, you know, it turns whatever possible reasonable thing you might be able to think of into totally not. Because like, we could even say in like, let's say, you know, Ancapistan or whatever free society that we envision, you know, like you could probably make a case in certain instances where like, okay, maybe somebody shouldn't have a weapon, you know what I mean? But, you know, like you said, you'd have to prove it, you know, you'd have to be able to go through and prove it and show or something, and not just this, any government agency can just say, well, I don't like you, you know, we're going to go and take your guns. And I think that kids and stuff like that's going to be the big thing too. Like if you have kids, you're basically already like, oh, you're dangerous to have guns. You can't have guns around kids, you know, in some instances. So anyhow, the red flag is definitely super scary.
Well, one example in Florida specifically, just to give one, you know, kind of scary situation, was that there was a guy who, you know, he was having a political disagreement. Like literally, they were talking about politics online, and he posted, I think it was on Instagram, and maybe got reposted to Facebook, a picture of his AR build. You know, totally benign, right? Not a threat picture, even which, you know, that's its own nuanced debate. But literally, just took a picture of, he was, you know, proud of the gun he had built, he had put together. And someone used that to report him for red flag, who obviously didn't like his views. And then the police took his guns, and he had a higher attorney, and he won the case. Like, you know, obviously, because it's, you know, clearly First Amendment protected stuff, but it cost him the time, you know, to actually get the attorney, the expense of the attorney, and, you know, all that time having to go through the court process and get back his stuff. I mean, and that's crazy, right? Like, there was, you know, he lost that time and money to try to defend himself, where literally, you know, in any other, you know, circumstance, a prosecutor dealing in criminal law would say, oh, well, yeah, we can't charge over that, right? But because they put it in civil court and they try to lower the standards, oh, okay, well, now that's enough. You know, there's a picture on Instagram of a gun. This guy is dangerous. You know, so very scary stuff and a terrible, you know, situation. But that's literally how bad it can get.
That was in Florida?
That was in Florida that happened.
Oh, man, we're supposed to be the good ones, you know?
Well, I mean, you won't be surprised when I tell you the county was Broward County, right?
Oh, okay. I was going to say you're that or Hillsborough, because Hillsborough is really bad with guns a lot of times, too.
Right. So the same people who handled Parkland, right? So these, you know, a bunch of very terrible people, to say the least, you know, these kinds of police officers who work in that county specifically, are especially horrible when it comes to those things. So, you know, scary stuff. And that's why, you know, just try to tell everybody about it, because some people just don't even get it. It like takes time to process. Like, no, this is not like some hyperbole. Like, they're literally taking people's guns and doing so without them even having a chance to say, hey, wait a second, you're wrong, before they take it. Like, this is a serious issue.
Innocent until proven guilty, et cetera, you know, all that nonsense just gone. You know, it's like civil asset forfeiture, but, you know. Right.
Yep, same thing with civil asset forfeiture is another one of those things where it turns, you know, your property over, you know, to the government. Now you have to prove, oh wait, you know, that's mine, and you're wrong for taking that. Now the burden's on you. It's crazy.
Thanks a lot, Biden. I think he wrote that shit in like the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was one of the main people on that. You know, back when he was, you know, still young and new in politics, like 60 years ago. Yeah. Anyhow, so I don't know. Do we want to switch gears to comic books, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you want. I can talk about most any topic.
Yeah, man. I want to get into comics because
Sure.
I don't know. I've always been a huge comic book fan when I was a kid. I think X-Men was pretty much my favorite comic. But I've always kind of liked superheroes too. So, but the thing that I like about your comic in particular is that there's not a lot of anarchist there's all these statist comics out there, and like even the Avengers, when they form, I think they like serve what's his name, who's like CIA or something. I forget which branch, like or the Pentagon. Yeah. Or no, Fury.
Nick Fury of
what's his
Shield.
name? Yeah, Nick Fury of Shield. Shield's like CIA or Pentagon or
Right, they're like
some
an
government agency.
Yeah.
Like a subset of, and so yeah, and it seems like a lot of the comics are super statist, and so it really is a breath of fresh air to have a comic that's like, no, actually, these are the bad guys, and it's in my opinion, it's closer to reality than the statist comic books, because they portray them as like trying to protect people and stuff. And it's like, no, they're actually the criminals. But yeah, kind of go into, and I guess I'm a huge fan of Origins, because it's like we're seeing how all of this has started. And if you could kind of go into a little bit about the Protagonist.
Sure. I mean, so just a little backdrop with the Protagonist, without giving too many spoilers, but giving a general overview of what's kind of out there. So the Protagonist is like a young guy who just recently graduated college, and the government, is in the backdrop, of course, doing some scheming for how they are going to really enslave humanity once and for all, really gain control. And the critical changing point is that there is a cosmic event which enables the Protagonist to have some powers, and there's some development with that too. It's not just all magical powers and almighty stuff right off the bat kind of thing. There's definitely development there too, but the kind of crux there, the big decision that has to be made by the Protagonist is whether or not he's going to go along with the government's plans for enslavement and work with them or not. And at the beginning, he is offered that choice, to choose to go with the government or to, refuse it. And so, from there, that's where the story kind of kicks off and, gets into what happens after, how he tries to escape and later on save his parents and things like that. So.
Hey guys, quick pause here to tell you about our sponsor, Devault Cryptocurrency. Ticker symbol DVT is a low cap coin with a market cap around 900,000. So there could be room for opportunity here. Not financial advice, but we really like this project.
Yeah, the Devault core wallet is one of the best I've ever seen. Very user friendly, super easy to use with cold staking rewards. So it's like getting interest. They're working on privacy with Terraform, also DeFi to decentralize and replace financial institutions.
So go ahead and check them out over at devault.cc and get you a Devault core wallet today. Also, be sure to check out the show notes to find exchanges that they are traded on. With that said, let's get back to the show. I got to say, I have Origins 4, and it's the first comic book I have ever read in my life. Maybe some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, something or other when I was like real young, but definitely the first comic book I've ever read. And it was good, man. It's definitely good. It's funny, like the first couple pages, it's like, sort of learning how like the flow of like, the words and the action and everything. And then by the end of it, like, I don't know, man, it was good. I'm like, man, I got to go get the other ones now because I got to know what happens.
Appreciate. I mean, I was surprised you followed along just because, that's in the middle of it, right? Like that's the fourth issue in. So it's like that you're like picked up on like where things are going is great.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like,
you're like,
I don't want to give like spoilers or anything, but yeah, I'm kind of like, man, like, I guess this is the origin series, so it feels like it's not very far along in the story yet, but I could be wrong. But if it's the origins, maybe it's still the beginning then, right?
Yeah, of course, relatively, it's not super deep into the whole of what is going to be the comic universe, which I have written out really far actually. But yeah, I mean, there still is a lot that led up to that point in the fourth issue in 1, 2, and 3. So I think you'll definitely appreciate the context of going back and reading it and be like, oh, okay, this makes even more sense.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna. What you were saying about like being like a little more like, I don't know, I guess realistic-y. Like one thing that's kind of funny is like I was thinking like in comics or whatever, like there's always like a supervillain, right? And it's always like some crazy dude. And it's like, why can't the supervillain just be government? Like they're the real life supervillain. It writes itself.
Yeah, no, I mean, government most often in comics is, again, either the hero or there's something wrong with it, but it needs to be fixed to, have good government again. And that goes across everything, even in independent comics, from what I've seen, the most successful ones, and even one of late, which is actually a personal favorite of mine, Invincible, which just got, an Amazon release for, an animation and has 2 more seasons that they've been booked for. They're just big status. At the end of the day, they just love worshiping the power of government, and to some extent that might just be playing into the culture, just because people are used to it, and it's easy to sell comics if you're just playing into what people were indoctrinated to believe in public school. But at the same time, I think there's also probably quite a few people who are picking and choosing, in terms of who's in control of what makes it for the big companies, including the big independent companies, think like Image or Dark Horse and things like that, who are limiting those kinds of discourses, right? That they're intentionally choosing to only allow that which in some way still supports the notion of a state. So, most comics that talk about anarchy or anarchists in some capacity ultimately paint them as bad, in terms of most all comic books that are out there, including, the DC Detective Comics Anarchy series, ANARKY, where that character, while interesting, is more like an anarcho-socialist and is shown as like being not good as compared to Batman, of course. So,
sure. I think you touched on this a little bit. Sometimes it seems kind of tough to make like quote libertarian content, but like without it coming off as like too overtly libertarian, because it kind of depends on your market. Like, do you guys try to market towards like libertarians, or maybe try to get some people who aren't quite there yet? And maybe this is like planting a seed or maybe help.
In the beginning, I was definitely catering to, liberty people and some of the Futureverse stuff, and like kind of like one-off like jokey comics like, Voluntaryist or State of Zombies was insider humor. But then with Origins, I definitely opened it up to, the normal storyline and the content being something that, anybody could get into if they just happen to like the genre of superhero comics and things like that. I would say that for most of the time, it was mostly liberty people, but I would say in the past 2 years, it appears that the readership has spread. And I've noticed an uptick in people who have been buying the comic who, are just interested in indie comics or comics that are not like, all the SJWing, of DC and Marvel out there, that, they're interested in people who are, just focused on the stories. So I've had a little bit of a change up in large part thanks to the stupidity. So, secretly, thanks Marvel and DC for just, wanting to do gender and color swaps instead of, good writing and making it interesting. Because it's definitely helped me for sure be able to, get the story out there and get people excited about it, just to have something that's like, oh, wow, this is something that hasn't been done before. Finally, something, different. So, yeah.
Well, and that's my answer when I hear people complain. I mean, not that there isn't definitely a conversation to be had about like, like quote, cancel culture and PC, whatnot. But it's like, man, like, if your favorite artist got dropped because of some stupid thing he said, dude, like, honestly, like, that's like a blessing these days. You have the opportunity to be, thanks to the internet, like, we can be like independent. You know what I mean? So I do think there is going to be a big thirst for things that aren't just ridiculously PC and the same old nonsense. I mean, like the comedy scene, like mainstream comedy is just awful now. Like for the last several years, it's been terrible, but you don't have to go to NBC for your fucking comedy. There's 8 million podcasts that are brilliant. Right. That you get that kind of stuff from. So yeah, it's cool that we have those options for sure. I'm going to assume you've always been like a big comic book fan.
Yeah, I would say that like I wouldn't consider myself the most hardest core of like comic book nerds in terms of. I mean, I don't know. These days, it's hard to tell what it is anymore, because it's like, okay, I have comic books on my shelf. Like, how many do you have? Like over 100? Like, does that count as being a nerd? I don't think so. But it's other people, they might be like, oh, you're a comic book nerd. I'm like, okay. I mean, I just liked all the different, sci-fi and superhero stuff, Lord of the Rings, the Batman, Superman movies and animated shows, and, just the whole gamut. Like, I've always been into that. So to me, it seems normal. I don't see it as like I'm as much of a nerd, but maybe I am to some people. But I look at people who are like, oh no, that's a nerd right there. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, this person knows like all the names of, the different people who worked in every comic, and they can rattle it off, and they know exactly when, this issue arc came out and which year. Like, that's not me. Like, I'm like a specialist. Like, I like certain nuanced arcs and special mix-ups. Like, I'm kind of like a niche comic book fan, you could say, but I'm definitely not like, one of those people you imagine when they make a stereotype of like someone who's like wearing a trench coat, it's got the fedora, and is like, has like huge racks of comic books.
You got to sterilize the tweezers before you turn the pages and stuff like that, man. You got to be messing up on mints.
Yeah. Definitely higher than most, but not, I don't consider myself.
I mean, enough to want to write your own, I guess. Yeah. Like, I guess that's the question I'm getting at. Is this something you always sort of dreamed of doing, or what sort of got you into actually starting to write a comic book?
Yeah, no, that's really funny, because actually that's why
next question.
Oh, that's perfect.
Still my question.
Well, it's all good. We don't have to worry about IP here, so we're all good. We'll keep it chill. Yeah, but no, honestly, I never thought I was going to write a comic book. That's just really hilarious. Like, honestly, looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I guess I did that. I like came up with the idea when I was studying for the bar exam after law school. Like, just to give you a context of how little I was planning to do that. Like, I wasn't. I was like kind of just bored a little bit while studying for the bar. And I had some free time. So I'm like, I really want to do something that combines my interests, of liberty. And obviously I like superhero stuff and this and that. I'm like, maybe I can like work on a film script or something like that, a treatment. And so I started to play around with it, and I started to work on something, and I was like, okay, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this and get funded, reasonably to make it look good. There's just no way. But I was like, but what could I do that I could probably afford to do and do at least mainstream competitive well? I'm like, oh, a comic book. I'm like, okay, I can translate this concept into a comic book series, and I can afford to do that. Like, it's not as hard to do something like that. I mean, if I wanted to make an animated film, we're talking at least $300,000 to $500,000 for a pilot, whereas to make a comic book, depending on the quality and this or that, might be $3,000 to $10,000, right? Way more manageable, in the comparison. So it's like, okay, I'll try it. So I did, and then I learned a lot along the way. I definitely made plenty of mistakes, you know what I mean? Especially, in the first two issues. Like, I wish I had done some things differently, in terms of how I chose to hire and, how I, delegated out certain tasks and things like that, and the process about which I developed the characters. But in the end, I, even when I was close to by anyone's standards saying, maybe this isn't for you kind of thing, I was like, no, I really like this. I'm going to keep going. I kept sticking with it until I broke through and succeeded. That's really what it boiled down to, is, you just got to outlast at the end of the day. So, and with that, the past, I think, 4 campaigns alone have all been well over 100% funded. You know what I mean? So this is something that, gosh, has been, like 10 years in the making, and obviously in the first few years, raised some money, but, not hitting the success that I was hoping for, and, having some struggles. But I kept pushing through and tried to learn from my mistakes and thought about what I could do better, and, took those lessons to heart. And that allowed me to, of course, eventually do better and work my way up to where I am today.
Hell yeah, man. That's the best way to learn, dude. Fuck some shit up and,
Yeah. Just not too hard. You got to have just the right amount.
Yeah. Maybe take a practice run,
Right. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I think that's true for a lot of things, is that it's difficult to know beforehand exactly what it's going to take to succeed. And if you don't at least start somewhere and start trying and start learning, you're never going to get to success. Like, you're never going to be there unless you start. You have to do something toward your goal or you're never, it's never going to be handed to you. No one's gonna be like, oh, here's your dreams. I'm gonna just put it on a platter. Here you go. Like, no one's gonna give you what you want. You have to actually do the hard work and work toward it and keep stewarding toward it every day. And eventually, after years of work, you get to the point where you actually have something substantive and have, learned from mistakes and now actually, can go forward. So.
Hell yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
What you got, Brandon?
Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like
a pretty good listener. So.
Yeah.
No, you've been great, dude. What do you have planned now? You said you're gonna have, so Origin's gonna have 6 issues total or 7?
Mm-hmm.
Or?
So Origins right now, because I have it broken out, I had a master document and then I break it into issues and figure out where it's gonna fall. The Origins arc appears to be able to wrap in 6. So after Origins 5 wraps, then there'll be one more issue, Origin 6, and that will be the last issue in that arc. And then there'll be a new arc after that that will introduce a whole new set of circumstances and characters to push the story forward to the next level. But the origin story, which basically, sets the tone, gives you a background of the, protagonist and like what the conflict is and what, where things are going, will be wrapped at the end of this next issue that I obviously haven't released and fundraised for, but, got to finish 5 first, of course. I got to finish this plate before I can get onto the dessert. So,
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. What I guess I don't have any more questions on that. Yeah, I think you pretty much answered all of them.
I got one more then, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, take it away.
So you don't do the illustrations, correct? You have somebody else do the illustrations for you. What's that kind of process kind of like working with the illustrator to get this? Like, I guess how much creativity is like you versus the illustrator? Like, do you really lay it out what you want, or do you kind of do the story and they sort of take it from there, or what's a little bit of that like?
Sure. For me, I do a mix of things. I have, the written part, which is just the word description and, the dialogue and things like that. But in addition, usually when I want to make sure that a certain look is achieved, I may bring in some pictures just to help inspire like the direction of where I want to go. If I really need to be very specific, sometimes I will myself, like with my very crappy, artistic skills, which I can do cartooning a little bit okay myself, that I can do, but I can't, like, realism is just not my forte by any measure. So, you know what I mean? That's the, what's that?
I'm a stick figure guy myself. So.
Yeah, I can do stick figure. I can do like
see my avatar. That my wife drew that. That's our dog.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, dude, it's amazing. Like I see people who can actually do art, and it blows my mind because I'm a stick figure guy too. So.
The way she drew it, was that a dot work, or is that like stroking?
It's a pencil sketch.
Okay.
Yeah, just a pencil sketch off of a photo. I know it's a tiny picture there.
Right. So it's like it almost looks like it could be a dot work because it's so fine.
Yeah.
If I've seen people who use pencil dot works, so very precision.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, I have such respect for people that can draw shit and actually make it look like stuff.
Yeah,
no, it's so impressive.
I seriously thought that was a picture. I didn't even know. Like, until you told me that was a pencil, I thought that was actually a picture.
Yeah, it's like my favorite thing she's ever done. It looks so good.
Wow. Yeah. No, incredible. She got talent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really good. Yeah. No, seriously, if you need artwork, hit her up. But sorry to derail that. But yeah, some people definitely have a lot of talent. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of curious. Yeah, like how much creativity towards it. Like you're Yeah. And I'm sure it's different in every publication too. I mean, I'm sure there's comic people who do everything. So.
Right. So well, it typically, if we're talking about mainstream comics, there's going to be at least most often a writer, a penciler, you could say inker, possibly a color flattist, that is just do flat colors. There's then a detailer for the colors, and a letterer. And sometimes, the flatter and the colorist, can be combined into one. Sometimes there's multiple writers on an issue. But as you can see, there can very readily be 4 or 5 people working on a comic, in some cases, sometimes even more. So comic books are typically not made by one person, and whoever can do all those elements really well is like an art god, basically. You can actually do all those things and do them industry standard. You're like you're literally like a comic book god at that point, because there's very few people who can do all of it. There's very few people, because everything's a specialty, right? If you're a primary penciler, your specialty is in, doing that design. There's some people who do pencils and inks because it's just inking over your pencil, so not a big deal. But to be able to do every single one of those things is truly an incredible feat. And I typically don't do anything like that, because someone who's like that, usually charges a crap ton of money, or they're just doing their own thing. They don't do it start to finish.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. So no, but for me, at this point, I do the writing, production wise, manage everything, and I've been doing the lettering because I was, I had letters before and stuff like that, and then eventually I got to the point where like, I can do letters good enough, to make it worth my time, and then it's like I can actually edit as I go. So if I want to change something up, like I don't have to go back and forth with somebody else. So I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like it's a lot easier for me just to do the lettering part myself. So right now, I'm going to be doing the lettering. I did the lettering in the last issue. I'm doing the lettering on this issue. I'll be improving that as well. But there's a separate penciler, inker, colorist. So, I work with several people to bring the comic book to production as it stands.
I did not realize that much.
Yeah.
That much work or people, went into doing that. Like, I guess I kind of assumed you had like a dude who did your art, and like one person was like capable of that. That's crazy, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Each is a specialization with niche unique ideas about how you can bring your skill up to industry standard, in coloring, in lettering. Even that's a very special technique where there's norms about what kind of balloon you use, where you place things, how you do sound effects and all kinds of stuff, spaces and stuff. It's actually pretty involved. It's pretty crazy.
Well, that is one of the cool things that I was noticing in it too, is like you said, where the spacing, where everything sits to sort of create a flow, and it sort of, once you get into it, it kind of sucks you in, isn't the right term, but yeah, like it's like, it's almost like watching a movie that like you get into it,
Oh yeah.
Just, a little motion will have a sound and a little side picture. And so like in number 4, like there was a little peephole thing that slams shut, and there's a little box for it. And it took me a second, like, what is this? I'm like, oh, it's a peephole thing slamming shut. Boom. And then it all flows. It's great, So it's really cool. Let's talk about you guys doing music videos and stuff, because that's really awesome. And I guess we'll go ahead and stick with the same question, like on you guys' music videos. And I mean, you guys just music in general seems very well produced. How much of that stuff like you guys do? Is that like just you and Fo out there with a camera doing these videos, or do you have like a crew, or like what's it take?
It depends. So, for example, a higher level production music video that we did was ANCAP Grind. That was 2018. That we had a full crew for. So we had, an actual DP, director. We had people doing, light stuff in terms of reflectors and things like that. So we actually had a full film crew for that music video. But then like Mask Order, I shot that myself. I just did it all. So I used a bunch of different cameras and, shot in different environments over a few days, and then put it together and edit it. So it just depends on our budget and timing and stuff like that. Obviously, ideally, it's always nice to be able to hire a crew, but when you're hiring a crew, you're talking in the thousands of dollars at least to do that. So sometimes
stress.
Well, for that, maybe for me, I'm like, it's great. I can I can do all that, and I can focus on just making sure that everything's perfect and whatnot. But yeah, ideally, I like to be able to hire talent to do it. But when ROI doesn't seem to be there, then I'll go ahead and shoot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you take really great pictures. I've seen some of the photographs and stuff you've done, and they look really good. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
I do those pictures, right? So if you ever see like Libertarian Country and there's like a promoted post as far as whatever on her page, like those are all pictures I've shot.
All right, let's take a quick second to shout out Agorist Acres Seeds. AgoristAcres.com stocks a variety of seeds for your garden or homestead. They also have really cool packaging instead of those silly paper envelopes.
Buy seeds with crypto, support the counter economy, and become self-sustaining today. Agorist Acres offers fast shipping so you can get started right away.
Make sure you use code Nexus10 at the checkout for 10% off of your orders. Also, they will donate a portion of the sale to Agorist Nexus, helping to bring you all the great content you expect. And all right, let's get on with it. Yeah. I'm sure that, anybody who listens to our show has definitely heard, some of y'all's music because it's our opening. So
right. Yeah, I know, right? I was gonna say, yeah, we did do the Agorist Nexus theme, which actually, it's still one of Fuz's favorites. She loves that song, like for real.
and it's not just because it's kind of like about us, but like it's one of my favorites too, for sure. I think it was a really good song, and everybody I play it for loves it. And I didn't even know it was like happening, and Brandon sent it over to me, and like I'm listening to it and just like grinning ear to ear and have like goosebumps. Like I was like, oh my god, this is so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
like
really
it was a crazy, because like the bare bones track itself was just kind of like nothing special or crazy, but then when we worked with our sound engineer to kind of spice it up, do some mastering and effects, and then like move around our voices and like really have a cacophony of like going ear to ear with our different types of way of saying Agorist Next and stuff like that, it came out really cool. And I think the lyrics came up with really are fun. Like if you actually take the time to like look at what the words that are being said, it's very it's very Agorist.
Oh, the lyrics are my favorite part, man. You guys knocked it out of the park on the lyrics. Like,
thank you. Yeah, thanks for your support and helping us make that, because that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I had fun and I wasn't even there. So, but yeah, it's like an instrument apart, and I'm just like, oh man, it's so great. But what other music tracks do you guys have?
A ton,
planned?
actually.
I mean, if you can go into some of it.
I can't spoil the exact topics and names, but what I can tell you in generality is that I already have, I think, like 8 other songs already written and synced up to actual music. I will be doing the next song this Friday. That's tomorrow. So I'm going to be doing a new song, and in our future music, we are still going with like new kinds of sounds and things like that. So we're trying to have fun by like doing different genres, because obviously music is subjective, and some people like rap, some people like rock, some people like soft music, some people like house EDM. So we just were like, let's see how many different genres of songs you can kind of do, just to see like that there's something for everybody with some type of funny liberty theme. Like even Florida Man, right? That was a country song, or technically country trap song, but for me that's country enough. That's as far as I can go.
when I heard that, I was like, you guys can do it all. Like, well, there's nothing you guys can't do.
Well, I'm limited. Like I am way too white to do like serious rap. Like I can't though, for real. Like I can do like stylistic, like think like Limp Bizkit or like rapcore, like Linkin Park kind of thing. But me, if I try to like straight up rap, like gangster rap, or even like late 80s, early 90s, I will sound dumb as hell. Serious, no, like that's the thing. But that's what's cool. It's like I know my limits. Like I'm not gonna pretend that something sounds good that doesn't. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, I can do anything. I can't. I have limits. But the good news is that I can do a lot of fun stuff, and so that's what we do. We're like, hey, let's do as much fun things as we can. And like seriously, like thank you for the Agorist Next thing, because that was actually an opportunity to talk to the sound engineer and other musicians who were there. They're like, oh, what's that mean? And we actually told them what it is to do agorism, and that like literally that led to them learning about it. You know what I mean? So it's just little things that y'all think about. They're like, oh, okay, they're gonna record this song, but actually that led to conversations that actually taught people about what y'all are doing and stuff. Like, oh, that's super cool. They were really into it. So you know what I mean? It's just little things like that. You don't think it's gonna have a big effect, but it's just one person at a time and getting that information in front of them where they wouldn't have otherwise, right? So what else?
Hell yeah.
Agorist song in studio, you know what I mean? When's that going to happen otherwise? It's it's not a common thing. So
it's not. We don't get a lot of
let's get some
content.
Yeah.
Let's get some death metal. How about death metal? You guys?
We
You
did
guys do
do
death
one. We did do one. You could call it heavy metal song, and that it's not as fast as many heavy metal songs. You know, you'd say it's not as like like double drum tap bass kind of thing where it's like really. But it is that level of growling.
Nice.
So it does exist. It's Never Surrender is the name of that song, and it is on the music list that's on YouTube and on SoundCloud. But it's not as like fast heavy metal. But we do have a song that's going to be like punk heavy. That's kind of screaming, hopefully out in the near future too. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
it's
can't
cool.
wait to.
It's cool spicing it up with the different genres. Like you said, not only is it fun, but you can sort of get to explore too and maybe figure out, where your sweet spot is. Figure out what works best for you too. So
yeah, we got some sweet spots for sure. Yeah, like she can do like kind of soft rap, some soft singing, but yeah, she herself obviously limited in like the absolute most gangsta of gangster rap. She can't, do that. She's not gonna sound like, DMX or something. I mean, that's just not gonna happen. But she can.
Funny to hear her try.
Right. It's pretty. I've seen it. It's pretty funny. But she could sound like tough, right? Like she didn't like the ANCAP Boogaloo Trap 2020, like sounding kind of tough. But she's not gonna ever be ludicrous or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, but it's fun though. It's a lot of fun, and
she's probably cooler than them anyway because she can probably shoot better than them. So I mean,
yeah,
that's true. She doesn't want the government doing more stuff. Although I think Ice-T is pretty cool. I think when it comes to liberty and guns and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I can't give a specific example, but I feel like I just heard something about that recently. Actually,
he's been around saying like like having guns as base, and like he talks about like obvious. I mean, a lot of rappers already kind of practice a lot of agoristic things. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? But yeah, he's one, and Post Malone is one. He's probably the most famous actual like himself libertarian out there, in my opinion.
I did not know he was.
Mm-hmm. He's not like always talking about politics because he's he's doing the music thing, but the couple times he has like he's from Texas and he has the whole Texas attitude of like the government's gonna come after you one day and you need to prep and train and like he does a lot of like the self-sufficiency stuff and he talks about how the government's gonna like shut down credit cards and like take down people and stuff. He's actually like pretty woke or based, if you want to talk about based woke.
Yeah.
I don't use those terms too much, but you know what I mean. So he actually appears to be like himself like a genuine libertarian minded guy.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah, and especially with like like hip hop, or urban culture, like in general, there is a healthy distrust of government. For the most part, they a lot of them might not still be quite where we're at, but it's like, man, you really do have a lot to work with there. When they already have that distrust of government, and it's like you can sort of fill in some of the gaps and put some of the pieces together for here's a better way to live. But yeah, you do get a lot of that there. Like Killer Mike is another example. I definitely don't agree with his politics on a lot of stuff, but he makes a lot of good points in a lot of instances. And even with guns, he's like, the government has assault rifles. They can't tell us we can't have assault rifles.
Right.
And I know it's a shitty term, but I'm just it's easiest.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So you guys have done some events, like some shooting events and everything. How do those turn out, man? Are they fun or?
Oh, hella fun. Yeah,
How can they not be? But
we did. We started to do events this year in terms of our own produced events. Just because we're like, heck yeah, it's time to get some people hanging out back after everything being shut down. We're so pissed off at all that. We're like, all right, we're going to help ramp this up. So we did our first event with Liberty Doll. And that was super cool because she rarely comes out to stuff. I think she's done like Pork Fest maybe once and maybe one other thing, but she doesn't really come out too much. But she was willing to come out for us. And, you know, we had a sold out event. It was a lot of fun. We got to shoot a whole bunch of crazy guns. Like this one dude brought like 9 guns for people to shoot. And like at the end of it, he was like handing out boxes of 9mm to everybody. He's like, oh, you want some 9? So that was crazy. Like,
wow.
You know, not saying that that's going to happen every time, folks. Just like, you know, but that was a great.
But there is precedent.
That was a great. Well, the second event that we had was the Spike Cohen, and we were, you know, shooting a bunch of guns and stuff like that. And one guy, he brought some interesting pieces. He had a kind of Uzi style gun with a, you know, a you could say extended shoulder brace, and then it had a can on the front. That, and the gun's very heavy, so it's, I mean, it was, for me, I was like, this is not my favorite thing to hold, but it shot 22 LR. So basically, like, because it's so heavy and it had the can stuff, like literally it's like a video game gun. You would just, you know, pull a trigger and it's just, you know what I mean? So it felt like you're playing an arcade, but of course, at least you're, you know, shooting 22 LR, and that was really fun. Everybody got to shoot that and some other pieces that he had. And then I let people shoot some of our stuff. So we shot some, you know, fun guns there too. So, I mean, it's just an incredible experience to be able to come by, see some cool people, you know, network, you know, and then hang out afterward because, you know, after our talk and our range event, then we have a VIP lounge thing after where we just, you know, relax, have some refreshments and talk and catch up. And it's just, you know, after you have the excitement of shooting with everybody, it's just really fun to, you know, decompress and like, you know, share that excitement and relax and stuff. So, yeah, just really fun.
You've got a pretty cool range that lets you like have events like this, or is like a private thing. Like I hate public ranges, so I'm so picky about what ranges I go to. You guys have a pretty cool range or whatever that lets you do this?
Yeah, so we have a cool connection at Reload Gun Range. That's where we do our events, and you know, they're one of the top 5 largest indoor ranges in the United States. You know, state of the art facility, super huge. They have, you know, even 100-yard range, stuff like that. So it's not an outdoor range, but you know, in terms of indoor, it's, you know, very primo.
Indoor 100 yards, that's pretty big.
Yeah, that's a big lane they got there. And so we shot on the pistol. So we rent out the pistols part because it's like this, you know, kind of private, secluded area. So no one has to cross over anybody else, you know, going to the other ranges. So we do the pistol range. It goes up to 15 yards, and you know, just have a blast, literally.
Nice,
yeah.
Nice. That's a hoot, man. I've been, you know, really neglecting practicing, you know, this last year. It's not like I'm just trying to hoard my ammo or anything, but it's like, oh, it's expensive, you know.
Oh, it is.
So yeah, man, I really need to get back out there. It seems like ammo prices, at least in some calibers, are starting to come back within. I can't believe I'm saying $20 per box 9mm is getting back to within reason, but damn, it does feel a little bit better.
You're right. From what I've seen, the supply has, you know, picked back up. It's kind of leveled out. The panic buying has leveled out. The prices are still relatively high, but the supply is there at least. You know, whereas like oh, every time there's, you know, 10 boxes put on the shelf, it's someone just, you know, picks them up. Now it's like a lot of places actually have it in stock, so at least you can get it. You know what I mean? If you didn't have, you know, your own supply or, you know, your own machine to, you know, press, but
sure. One of the reasons you mentioned a 22 long rifle, one of the reasons I love. I've got several 22s just because, yeah, I mean, ammo's cheap and light, and like I've got a ton of it, you know. So it's a good, great caliber to practice in too because it's easy to shoot. So you know you're getting over some of that, you know, fear of recoil or whatever. So it's definitely a fun one. You were talking about some of the
can't really do reloads on 22, but you know.
Yeah, on rimfires, yeah, you can. But fortunately, it's cheap enough. I had a buddy who got a suppressor, and he's like, "Oh, hey man, I haven't got to try it out yet. You mind if I come over to your place and you know test it?" I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah!" But it was the first time I ever shot anything suppressed, and it is, dude. I mean, it's just, you know, click, 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 you know, with the 22, really cool.
Especially subsonic ammo for 22, you put that, you know, you through there, and it's literally like whisper.
Yeah,
yeah.
But it's, you know, and it is really funny. People, of course. People don't want, you know, suppressors to be legal or whatever, you know. I don't really understand that it's not a silencer kind of thing, but like I use, you know, like I dispatch things. We have a farm, so like I dispatch, you know, critters when I have to. But like, yeah, man, like when I got to shoot something, you know, I'm not wearing earphones when I come across something, so you know, my ears ring for a little bit, and it's like, yeah, man, you know, I wouldn't mind having something that wasn't so obtrusively loud or something that wasn't going to hurt my, you know, my hound dog's ears when we're out hunting or something, you know. So there's practical uses for that shit too.
Well, just hearing protection like itself is the most important part. And I think we did a video on this where, talked about the suppressor issues, and just like a big misconception is the idea that like if you throw on a can, all of a sudden it's like 0 decibels, and it's not. It's your typical load is going to be already in the 150s to 170 arena in terms of decibels. When you throw on the can, it's going to reduce it 20-30 decibels, right? You're still in like the potential hearing damage range even with that on for subsonic ammo. And then some people say, well, what about subsonic ammo? It's like, okay, sure, if you're shooting like 45, it's still going to be loud. It's not like it's quiet. It might be 100, 110 decibels, but it's not going to be like, oh, there's no noise whatsoever. So a lot of the Hollywood movies, make it seem like as if murderers, like all they do is throw on, suppressors, and then suddenly they just kill everybody and nobody can hear anything. And it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, you clear out a public restroom and the dude in the stall doesn't know what just happened.
Right.
It's like, come on, dude, go hear that.
The closest you get, like Dustin from Top Shot, who won like the series. I don't know if you've ever seen the series Top Shot, but he won one of the seasons. He showed that he got one gun to get pretty quiet. He used a really high-end suppressor. I just forgot the name off it, but it's a thick, long black one, not like the round one. It's got like a kind of oblong shape. And then he used 45, which I think is naturally subsonic. And then he added grease to the can. So like if you grease the inside of it, that adds another bit of suppression. And then when he did that, it was coming in, I think maybe in like 95 decibels or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's pretty quiet. That's about conversation level.
Right. So again, you don't have to wear ear protection at all. It's crazy quiet, but it's not like, oh, I don't hear something going on. Like if you shoot it, it's still like, oh, what the heck is that sound? But it's not like, oh, and it's, like whispers and like nobody would hear anything. Like, no, you'd still be aware that someone's doing something. You might, a BB gun was shot, but it's not going to be, absolutely quiet. And you just, kill off a bunch of innocent people and walk away and just, wipe your gun and like, walk in your business suit like they do in a Hollywood movie, and then nobody knows. It's so hilariously like ridiculous.
Yeah, just anything movies and TV when it comes to guns is always they never have a round chambered until it's dramatically important to chamber the round. They'll be waving a gun in somebody's face, then chamber the round. It's what were you gonna do a second ago, dude? Like, come on. Anyhow,
never-ending magazine limit. Like, it's like you're counting it off as they shoot. You're like, okay, I know that model. They should be out by now, and they just keep shooting. You're like, I guess not.
What revolver goes to 13 rounds? I don't.
Right. Yeah.
Or another one that got me was
revolver.
Yeah, exactly. Walking Dead, when like people with obviously no like professional like gun experience are like picking off headshots on zombies at 30 yards, and I'm like, give me a fucking break, dude. It's a moving target of that,
Right, and your heart's probably pounding, and you're like breathing heavy. It's not likely going to happen that way. Yeah.
Yeah. The first few times I went to like a range, when I was still getting a little more comfortable, shooting and handling guns and stuff. Like, going to the range could be really nerve wracking. The first couple of times I went, I was almost a little shaky. know, and I think a lot of it is also being like when I grew up shooting, we're outside in a private place, and you're at a public, and there's 30 other guns going off, and brass is hitting you in the face from the dude next door and stuff, and it's it can be a nerve-wracking experience for sure, but it's there is a lot to be said for being comfortable with them, and like you said, in a situation like that where zombies chasing you, like that'd be a pretty miraculous miraculous thing.
That consistent headshots, that'd be pretty miraculous.
All right. What anything else going on? Anything else you want to talk about or plug? Or I'm sorry, Brandon, you got anything else on these topics?
No, I don't got much.
Bullshit at this point.
Yeah, no, I've just been having fun listening. So,
awesome.
Well, yeah, man. Anything else coming up or anything you want to plug? The Tom Woods 2000th is going to be a big deal. A lot of people are going to that one.
Yeah, TomWoods2000.com. I highly recommend. The tickets to the main event are free, and in terms of there's no cost to sign up for it. Obviously, there cost and opportunity and time to get there, whatever. But definitely,
it's a funny word, isn't it?
Right. There's going to be incredible people there. I mean, the lineup is outstanding. Bob Murphy's going to be there. Eric July is going to be there. There's going to be Michael Bolden and a bunch of other really cool people. And I think the attendees are going to also be incredible. So it's just another way to connect and hang out with great people who love liberty. So I'm super excited for that. And I would say one other thing I do want to mention is fun. I just recently released a bunch of articles on all the deceptions that surround coronavirus in terms of government manipulation, data distortion, and things like that. And that's on Ecency. So Ecency is kind of a skin over Hive. And if you're not familiar with what Hive is a fork of Steemit. And if you're not familiar with what Steemit is, Steemit is a crypto-based blogging platform. So very simple. It's just, you just go straight to Ecency, and it's just basically a blog, where people write articles and other stuff. So on Ecency, we have a whole series of articles about all the different ways the government has either just lied, distorted, or even possibly outright killed people through policy and incentives in the market. So
we will post a link to those articles because I don't even know how to spell whatever it is you just said that's on. So, sure. So shoot me over a link to that, and we will get a link to that in the show notes for sure. Along with, if you know your video series and like that, we'll get all that in there as well for the fine people.
You got it.
Cool, man, dude. This was great, man. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us today.
Of course, no, thank you, Brand. Thank you, Dag, for having me on.
yeah, man. Yeah, and of course, anytime you guys got anything you want to talk about or promote, hit me up, man. We'll get you on here for sure. Do we have a quote, Brandon? I meant to get some together this morning and completely forgot.
No, I don't. I don't.
We've been wrapping up the show on with a quote, Jack.
Okay.
And we sort of ran out of quotes, so we just sort of been putting the burden on our guests now. Do you have any favorite quotes from anybody that you like right here on the spot?
Yeah, there's tons of ones that I could think of. A paraphrase of what I like is just the idea that, we can tell how much the government has regressed human evolution because we live in a world with space age technology and Stone Age philosophy. The idea that, we have such high level of technology, yet so many people don't even understand the basics of thinking about consent and ethics and how they, wish to be treated. And, it's pretty incredible testament to how much indoctrination and manipulation has gone on.
Yeah, that's definitely very true. That is interesting thinking about it like that too. That it's because it's like if you're a good parent, right? You work yourself out of a job, right? You do less parenting, but obviously government is like people seem to require that more and more. So that is definitely some regression where we should be much more free with technology and such. Right. Very good.
Yeah, and I want to add to that too. I really like that because we can use technology to basically, wipe out a bunch of things that are already obsolete. In terms of like contracts, I know blockchain can do a lot of that stuff alone, contracts and finance, and so I don't know. But yeah, it's a great quote. I think. I think the same thing. So
Donnie Gebert. Are you familiar with Donnie Gebert?
Mm-mm.
He wrote what was the book? Oh man, I don't remember. It's free. I read it. But he has a saying, and it's something like we have a we're living in Jetsons, technology with Flintstones government, and he does a lot of like block transfer. It's almost like a pan-anarchist kind of thing, I think, where it's like you choose your own government, blah blah blah, through blockchain, and we can just replace city hall deeds, property, this and that with blockchain shit. It's gonna drive me nuts. I do not remember the name of that book. I am sorry, Donnie, but it's out there. So, yep. So anyhow, on that, unless there's nothing else, thank you so much for coming on. You want to close us out, Brandon?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for coming on again. Agorist Nexus out.
There we go. Peace.